You know that feeling when your whole world crashes down? When everything you thought made you special gets ripped away? Long ago, the most powerful being in existence felt exactly that way. But here's the thing about rock bottom. Sometimes it's not the end of your story. Sometimes it's just the foundation for something incredible. What if I told you that the greatest comeback in history happened to someone who spent 5 centuries trapped under a mountain? This isn't your typical redemption arc. This is what happens when ultimate power meets ultimate humility and creates something the universe has never seen before. Ready to see what real strength actually looks like? If you missed part 1, this story comes straight out of Journey to the West, one of the most legendary adventure epics in Chinese mythology. Last time, Sun Wukong tried to escape the universe and found himself still inside Buddha's palm. His power meant nothing. His rebellion collapsed. And so, the Monkey King vanished, buried under a mountain. With a calm breath, Buddha transformed his fingers into the 5 elements: metal, wood, water, fire, and earth, and pressed them into a mountain, not to crush Wukong, but to hold him still, not punishment. Pause. But what happened in that silence? What does the world's most arrogant soul do when there's no one left to impress? This is where his real journey begins. Think about it. This is like that friend who lost everything in crypto and had to rebuild from scratch, or every athlete who got cut from the team and used it as fuel, except with cosmic consequences. The Monkey King who eventually gets out from under that mountain, he's not the same guy who went in. Not even close. This is the story of the greatest character transformation ever written. How someone goes from cosmic troublemaker to the protector the universe desperately needs. But it starts with something way more powerful than any magic or martial arts. It starts with learning to sit with yourself. So what actually happens when you're stuck under a mountain for 5 centuries with nothing but your own thoughts? At first, pure rage. Sun Wukong spent probably the first few decades just screaming, cursing Buddha, cursing heaven, cursing the mountain, cursing every choice that led to this moment. The loneliness hits different when you're used to constant chaos. This guy went from being the center of every cosmic drama to complete isolation. No armies to fight, no gods to outsmart, no audience to impress. Just silence. And in that silence, the only thing louder than regret is your own ego refusing to die quietly. But here's what rage teaches you. It's exhausting. When you can't punch your way out, when you can't transform into something else, when you can't run away, eventually that anger burns itself out. Then comes something more dangerous than anger, the silence you can't outrun. Imagine being the most active, chaotic, constantly moving being in existence, and suddenly you can't move at all. No battles to fight, no tricks to pull, no heaven to terrorize. Just stillness. For someone whose entire identity was built on action and power, this is torture beyond anything physical. But somewhere around year 200, something starts to shift. See, when you can't run from your thoughts anymore, when there's literally nothing else to do, you start actually listening to them. Sun Wukong begins to realize something terrifying. He doesn't know who he is without the chaos. Remove the fighting, the showing off, the constant need to prove he's the strongest. And what's left? Who is Sun Wukong when he's not busy being the great sage equal to heaven? This is where Buddhism's first noble truth kicks in. Suffering exists, but it's also the teacher. Every moment of discomfort under that mountain is showing him something about attachment, about ego, about the prison he built in his own mind. Year 300. He starts remembering things differently. Those battles he was so proud of. He begins seeing the fear in his enemy's eyes, the destruction he caused, the chaos that followed him everywhere like a storm. Year 400. He begins to understand what Buddha meant. It wasn't about the palm being a prison. It was about ego being the real cage. He'd been trapped long before that mountain ever touched him. The mountain wasn't punishment, it was the ultimate meditation retreat. And by year 500, Sun Wukong has done something no amount of power could ever teach him. He's learned to be still, to listen, to think before acting, to find peace in his own company. He began to notice the sound of dew, the way the wind changed when birds flew past, the silence between his thoughts. It wasn't emptiness, it was space. And in that space, something else began to grow. The monkey who went under that mountain was a force of pure chaos. But the one who's about to emerge, he's something the universe has never seen before. Someone with ultimate power, who finally knows what to do with it. But first, someone needs to let him out. Picture the most unlikely hero you can imagine. Not a warrior, not a god, not someone with magical powers. A monk. A regular human monk named Xuanzang with a mission that sounds absolutely insane. He wants to walk from China to India, through demon-infested wilderness, across impossible mountains, facing creatures that could erase him from existence with a thought, all to bring Buddhist scriptures back to his people. Compared to him, even the craziest adventurers look like tourists. But here's what makes Xuanzang special. He doesn't want to do this for glory or power or to prove anything to anyone. He genuinely believes these teachings can help people find peace. Pure intention, zero ego. Everything Sun Wukong used to be the opposite of. Maybe Xuanzang saw potential in broken things. Maybe his own spiritual journey taught him that the most powerful transformations come from the deepest suffering. Whatever it was, this monk had faith in redemption. So Xuanzang is walking past this random mountain, probably wondering how he's going to survive the next 5 minutes of his impossible journey, when he hears a voice. Hey, human, get me out of here! And there, sticking out from under tons of rock, is a monkey's head, still talking after 500 years like it's been 5 minutes. Now any sane person would keep walking. Random talking monkey under a mountain, that's obviously some kind of trap. But Xuanzang stops, and here's why this moment is beautiful. He sees something in Sun Wukong's eyes that wasn't there before. Something that definitely wasn't there when he declared war on heaven. Humility. The Monkey King doesn't demand to be freed. He doesn't threaten or boast about his power. He just asks, like a person asking for help instead of a cosmic force demanding worship. Then Xuanzang does something that changes everything. He pulls off the Buddhist seal that's been keeping Sun Wukong trapped. The mountain crumbles, the earth shakes, and for the first time in 500 years, the Monkey King stands free. Now here's where you'd expect the revenge rampage, right? Time to go settle some scores with Buddha and heaven. But Sun Wukong does something that probably shocked him more than anyone else. He bows to the monk. This being who used to declare himself equal to heaven, bows to a regular human. Then he says something that proves the 500 years actually worked. How can I serve you? Wait, what? Did the most powerful rebel in existence just ask how he can help someone? For the first time, his voice carried something new. Gratitude. Not because he's been freed, but because someone believed he could change. But that's not even the wildest part. What Xuanzang asks for next is going to test everything Sun Wukong learned under that mountain. So Xuanzang looks at this incredibly powerful being who just offered to help him. And he's smart enough to realize something important. 500 years of reflection is great, but old habits die hard. Sun Wukong's old habit was turning every minor inconvenience into a cosmic war. So Xuanzang pulls out this simple golden band, almost like a headband, and says, "Before we travel together, you need to wear this." Sun Wukong looks at this tiny piece of jewelry and probably thinks, "Really? After everything I've been through, you want me to wear an accessory?" But he puts it on, no questions asked. Trust, something completely foreign to his old self. The moment that circlet touches his head, Sun Wukong realizes he just made a massive mistake. It looks like a headband, but it's a mirror strapped to his mind. Whenever he loses his temper, whenever that old rage starts building, whenever he even thinks about using his power for destruction instead of protection, The circlet tightens, and it hurts. Not just physical pain, it's like a migraine mixed with someone squeezing your skull in a vice. Immediate, intense, impossible to ignore. Sun Wukong's first reaction, pure fury. You tricked me. This is just another prison. Get this thing off my head right now. But Xuanzang just calmly says, I can't remove it. Only you can, by learning not to need it. Here's where it gets crazy. Sun Wukong can break mountains. He can fight gods. He can travel to the edge of the universe. But he can't remove one simple golden band. At first, he hates it. Every time his temper flares and the circlet tightens, he wants to destroy everything in sight. But destroying things is exactly what triggers the pain. It's the perfect trap for someone learning self-control. Day 1. The circlet tightens maybe 50 times. Every frustration, every moment of impatience, every flash of his old arrogance gets met with immediate feedback. Week 1, maybe 30 times. He's starting to recognize the triggers. Month 1, 15 times. He's learning to pause before reacting. Sun Wukong begins to realize the circlet isn't his enemy. It's his teacher, like having a personal trainer for your ego. It's genius, using external pressure to build internal peace. The limitation he thought was weakening him is actually making him stronger. What feels like ruin might be the root of something wiser. The thing he thought was limiting his power, it's actually unlocking abilities he never knew he had. Power without control? That's just fireworks with no direction. But Sun Wukong's about to get his first real test of this new wisdom. The road to India is crawling with demons who definitely remember the old Monkey King, and they want revenge. Three days into their journey, the ground starts shaking, not earthquake shaking, angry demon shaking, out of nowhere. This massive creature emerges from the forest. We're talking about something that makes horror movie monsters look like cute pets. Razor claws, burning eyes, the whole terrifying package. This demon recognizes Sun Wukong immediately.
Well, if it isn't the great sage equal to heaven. Heard you got humbled by Buddha and spent some quality time under a rock.
The demon's laughing, but not in a friendly way. More like, I've been waiting 500 years for payback. Laughing, see, back in his troublemaker days. Sun Wukong didn't just fight gods. He terrorized everyone, demons included. And this guy, he's been holding a grudge. Now here's where the real battle begins, and it's not the one you think. The demon lunges towards Xuanzang, and every instinct Sun Wukong has built over millennia screams the same thing. Destroy him. The old voice in his head is loud and clear. Remember how good it felt to be feared. Remember the rush of absolute dominance. One move and you could turn this demon into cosmic dust. Show him why they used to tremble at your name. His hands start to glow with that familiar golden energy. The same power that once shook the foundations of heaven. The circlet. It's not tightening yet. Self-defense isn't the problem. But Sun Wukong can feel it. Waiting. Watching. Ready to remind him the moment he crosses the line from protection to revenge. For a split second, he almost gives in. That dangerous thrill of unlimited power is right there, calling to him like an addiction he thought he'd beaten. Then he looks at Xuanzang, this peaceful monk who believed in him when no one else would, who trusted him with something precious, the mission to bring wisdom to the world. But something else stirs. A newly formed instinct whispers, what if there's another way? This time, it's not about proving anything. The old Wukong laughs in his mind. You're weak now. Soft. This monk has made you pathetic. But the new Wukong understands something the old one never could. It's not what you can do that defines you. It's what you hold back from doing. The demon throws a massive claw strike, expecting the legendary berserker from 500 years ago. Instead, he gets something way more dangerous. A warrior who's learned precision. Sun Wukong doesn't just block the attack, he redirects it. The demon's own force gets turned against him, sending him stumbling without any unnecessary damage. The creature breathes fire. expecting Sun Wukong to send it back doubled. Instead, the flames get redirected safely into the sky. No collateral damage, no forest fire, just problem solved. The demon is confused.
What? What are you doing? Fight me properly.
But Sun Wukong isn't fighting the demon. He's protecting Xuanzang. Completely different energy, completely different outcome. Every motion carries meaning, no wasted strength. Instead of overwhelming force, he uses exactly what's needed and nothing more. The sounds are different too. No earth-shattering impacts, no cosmic booms that shake mountains, just the precise sounds of someone who's learned that real strength doesn't need to announce itself. The demon realizes he's not facing the chaos bringer anymore. This is someone who's learned discipline, someone who's more dangerous precisely because he's holding back. Within minutes, the fight is over. The demon is defeated, but not destroyed, pinned to the ground, breathing hard, but very much alive. He looks up, probably expecting some cosmic punishment, and Sun Wukong does something that shocks everyone, including himself. He could destroy him, but instead, he gives him something far rarer, a second chance. The demon stumbles away, probably more confused than hurt, and Xuanzang looks at Sun Wukong with what looked like pride. "That was beautiful," the monk says quietly. Sun Wukong, the being who used to collect compliments like trophies, realizes this is the first time a compliment actually mattered. Not because of how strong he was, but because of how he chose to use that strength. Here's how to tell if you're fighting for ego or purpose. Ask yourself what you're trying to protect versus what you're trying to prove. The old Sun Wukong fought to show off. The new one fights to shield others. But even in victory, he feels something troubling. A flicker of that old pride trying to creep back in. The dangerous satisfaction of being seen as powerful again. The circlet gives the slightest squeeze. Just a gentle reminder. Not yet, but the biggest temptation, that's still on the horizon. Pause for a second, see what just happened. Sun Wukong learned that limitations can actually be liberating. That's not just Wukong's path, that's ours. Over the next few months, something incredible starts happening. Every demon they encounter, every challenge they face, becomes an opportunity for something better. A group of bandits tries to rob them. Instead of turning them into cosmic dust, Sun Wukong just disarms them and suggests they find honest work. Half of them actually listen. Each act of restraint sharpens his skill, not through brute force, but through right action and right effort. The Buddhist understanding that doing exactly what the situation requires, and nothing more, is true mastery. Before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. The work remains the same, but the one doing it has changed completely. The weirdest part? He's enjoying it more than he ever enjoyed the chaos. See, when you're fighting for your ego, every victory is temporary. There's always someone else to prove yourself to. But when you're protecting instead of conquering, every win actually matters. Sun Wukong starts to understand why Buddha didn't just erase him from existence. Destruction is easy. Any cosmic force can break things. But transformation, building instead of breaking, protecting instead of conquering, that takes real power. What once felt like a prison now feels like a compass. A gentle nudge that keeps him aligned with who he wants to be instead of who he used to be. Xuanzang watches this transformation happening and realizes something beautiful. He's not just traveling with a powerful protector. He's witnessing someone discover their true purpose. One evening, a young traveler joins their fire, asking Sun Wukong how to become strong. He doesn't show off. He just smiles and says, "First, learn to sit still when everything inside you wants to explode." 3 signs you're ready for your comeback. You've stopped trying to prove you're the strongest. You've started focusing on what you can protect, and you've learned to enjoy success without needing everyone to see it. But here's what Sun Wukong is slowly learning. Transformation is never really finished. And sometimes, your greatest enemy isn't waiting in the shadows. It's already inside, whispering, nostalgic for chaos. So what does a 500-year-old story about a humbled monkey have to do with rebuilding your life after everything falls apart? Everything. We've all been under our own mountain. That business failure that forced you to rethink everything. That relationship that ended and made you question who you really are. That moment when life humbled you so completely, you had to start over from scratch. Just like Sun Wukong needed that mountain, you might need whatever's crushing you right now. Not because the universe hates you, but because it's preparing you for something bigger. Your setbacks aren't roadblocks, they're foundations. Every time life forces you to sit still, to reflect, to really think about who you want to be instead of just reacting to everything. That's your 500 years of wisdom, compressed into however long it takes you to get the message. The old you might have been stronger, louder, more aggressive, but the version of you that emerges from your personal mountain, that person isn't just stronger, they're anchored. So what's your circlet? What's the thing that's teaching you self-control even though it feels limiting? What's the constraint that's actually making you better? Here's the real question. When you get your power back, your confidence back, your momentum back, what are you going to do with it? True danger isn't in someone untouched by failure. It's in the ones who broke, learned, and came back smarter. True strength isn't never falling. It's what you choose after the fall, when no one's watching and the world has moved on. But Sun Wukong's transformation? This is just the beginning. The road to India is long. The demons get bigger, and eventually, he's going to face his greatest test yet. When the mountain finally lifts and Wukong walks free again, he's not the same monkey who once challenged the gods. And yet, he's still not ready. The journey isn't over. Next time we witness what happens when a humbled warrior is asked to serve something greater than himself and face demons, not in the sky, but in the mirror. In part 3, the enemy has no face because it wears his. But the final test won't come from the outside. Part 3 is coming, and the choice Sun Wukong has to make will determine whether his transformation is real or just another elaborate show. What was your mountain? What cracked you open and forced you to grow? And if this story gave you chills, hit that subscribe button right now. Part 3 is going to blow your mind. We're talking about the final test, the ultimate choice between old habits and new wisdom. Hit the notification bell too. Next week, we're diving into the battle that determines everything. The fight that's not against an enemy, but against yourself. Stay curious, stay humble, and remember, your setbacks aren't stopping you. They're setting you up for something incredible.